Hi, I'm Kurt from Oz Armour and welcome to Workshop Wednesday. If you keep up to date with our social media, you'll know that on Friday we posted about Glenn and Beau's progress on the return rollers. Now the return rollers are 6 little wheels, 3 on either side of the hull, that keep the track lifted up clear of the suspension and aligned with the road wheels. Now we're getting into the technical side of the restoration process, so progress may seem like it's going a little bit slower at times, but this will give us a bit more opportunity to go into more detail, which we know you guys love. So without any further ado, sit back, relax and enjoy episode 9 of the STUG 3G.
The STUG pile in the museum is getting smaller and smaller. We've even brought out old part boxes from other STUG restorations in the hope that we might find parts we don't have. Even though this return roller looks usable, it's an early war one and not accurate for the variant of STUG we're rebuilding.
These are the return roller wheels, the STUG 3. We've got a few different types here. We've got one with rubber wheels, and we've got this one with the solid wheels, and a few differences in them. This is the early one here.
Okay.
You can pretty much tell straight away because of the design of it. Everything looks a lot more complicated than would have been late war.
Yep.
So this is a late one. As you can see, there's no taper or anything on the shaft. It's just straight. Does the exact same thing. It's a lot simpler to manufacture, a lot easier to make. This is the late one. This is actually what came off this tank. So this would have been 1945 made. So this wheel, everywhere I can see, it says that this wheel is supposed to be made by a different factory. I think it's called MEAG, not sure how to pronounce it exactly, and Alcat, or Alcat. This is what was on our tank when we received it. And we know that our hull is actually Alcat made, because Alcat would have been similar design, but with holes in them. 5 or 6 holes, I think it had. And yeah, these are the solid type.
So to sum up, our STUG is an Alcat factory STUG, but came out of the factory with MEAG return rollers. And it gets even more curious, as Beau made an interesting discovery.
That's old grease, so the oil separated from it and that's what's left over. So that's what this piece here is, right? You can see your two threaded parts on the outside there. That's what these are, so they're bolts. And they hold the cap on. That cap sits against the inner of the bearing, and that's what... No, I lied. There is no bearing. So the early ones had bearings, and the late ones didn't. So that would have just ran on that shaft purely. So the wheels, it's metal on metal. There's no spinning, moving bearing or anything. It's a late war thing. So ball bearing factories and that were bombed and didn't have access to a lot of stuff. So they probably just thought, well, this is good enough for how long the vehicle's going to last. We don't really need bearings. And look how good it spins just for metal on metal. You know what I mean? Like there is no bearing in that at all. Whereas this one, it's got a bearing in it. It's got 2 bearings in it. Inner and outer. We've got this wheel and another one that's a little bit more complete, and that inner. I think we've got enough of these. We've got enough shafts that we can use, but we don't have enough wheels. So we've got to make them. Should be right. Make them. It'll be easy. This is a return roller. Pretty bad condition.
It's a wheel.
It's a wheel. Well, what used to be a wheel. We've got to take all of this off and then recreate it by using the center and keep the center.
So we have 2 damaged wheels that we will try and repair, 2 inners that we can use, and 6 original shafts. There are some other pieces like caps, bolts and nuts which we can also use.
Little cone.
The lead time on our steel supply is several weeks at the moment, so Bo loses no time in measuring up what he needs. Then he has to draw it up in CAD and put the order in as soon as possible. We were pretty optimistic at first, but as always, nothing ever quite goes to plan.
So we actually needed quite a lot more parts than I first thought. Quite a lot more.
What did you initially think?
Well, we thought we had more wheels to sort of begin with, and we were going to use the more original parts, but the castings are actually cracking, so we can't use them, so we've got to fabricate more pieces. So we pretty much have one good wheel that we can use.
One good wheel?
One good return roller, yeah. So we've got to make another 5 of them.
The steel has arrived, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Before we do anything else, we can't go welding anything on yet until we actually press this piece, the center in, because they're tapered, they're not straight, and that's, I guess, for the guide horn on the track to go through. After we press that, we can then apply the outer ring and then start putting all the gussets on. It's got to be lifted slightly with packers around the outside to meet up with the height of the top of these spokes here. So that'll have to be lifted like that. Put this piece inside that. One of these from either way, just like this one.
But first, he has to press the wheels so they have a taper. To do this, Bo makes a die that the wheel can sit on as the centre is pressed. We have a lot of little tools and things like this that the boys have made over the years. They always come in handy later.
It doesn't have to be pretty.
It's not pretty at all, but it'll do the job. Oh, we got too far. Pretty cool. So what I've got to do is I've got to square this face here up and then put the bevel square on. So I've got to take this back over. That's spot on. Exactly right. I was really lucky.
It's great having a win like that. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was a fluke. Bo actually managed to press each one perfectly. First time. Since Bo pressed these wheels, it's changed the diameter of the centre hole. This has to be cut out to the right size again with the lathe. For an expert like Glenn, it takes no time. These 32mm rims were oxy-cut by our supplier, and there was quite a bit of slag left on them. It's very important to remove the slag before welding or painting. Bo cleans off the rims as his dad works away on the lathe. The next job is to weld in the little bars onto the wheel. These are called gussets, and they greatly increase the wheel's strength. Bo is a stickler for detail. Even though most people won't notice if a return roller gusset is 2 or 3mm out, Bo will know, and it will haunt his dreams for the rest of his life, unless it's perfect. Going into this much detail to make the wheels look like cast pieces takes a lot of time and patience, but in the end, it'll all be worth it. Glenn is now going to smooth out the weld, which will make it look like one solid piece. The original wheels are not in good condition at all, and we nearly decided against using them, but it seemed too much of a waste not to try. If these were road wheels, it would not be safe for us to use these pieces. But since we're only going to be driving the STUG around once a year or so, they'll probably be alright. Bo removes the broken edges from the wheel and cuts up one of his new wheels to fit. Then he tacks on some bar to use as a level, and then tacks the new part of the wheel on. Most steel on German tanks is hardened, so in order to join the mild steel to it properly, Bo uses the stick welder as the electrodes have more flex.
This is the hub of the return roller. So Dad's made these.
And you turn them out as like round bar.
Solid bar, yeah.
Solid bar. What he's done here is copied the dimensions exactly of an original hub that we had. So that's how we know what size to make everything.
Yeah.
Slip this wheel over in the lathe. So we're going to tack it on and then spin it, see if the wheel spins true. And if it's out a bit, then we'll just keep tapping it until we get it in the right spot. We've got a reference line here that he's turned into it. So we just push the edge of that up to that line and it should be right. We'll give it a go. Right through until there. Right, so what he's doing now is he's putting an indicator line 40mm in from the end, so we know exactly where to put the next wheel in. We got the needle gun and we've weathered the plate a little bit, just so it doesn't stand out so much, I guess, on the tank. It's brand new fabricated steel when it's supposed to be a cast part, and the rest of the tank's all pitted badly. So we put a bit of texture on this here, just on that face, just to give it a bit of something so it doesn't stand out.
I know you scale modelers out there would appreciate this sort of weathering technique. Now it's time to give the sharp edges a smooth bevel and machine the face of the rim nice and flush. To help us out with this job, we use a dial indicator.
It just has like a really sensitive pin on the end of it, and as soon as something is out of round, the high spot will then touch the end of that pin, push it in, and that will indicate how many thou or how many mil or whatever it is out, like how far it pushes that pin in.
Now we have 4 fabricated wheels and 2 restored wheels. The restored wheels have been sent away for sandblasting and priming, but we can prime and prep the fabricated ones here.
This is a piece that sits in the back of the wheel. I'll show you quickly. This piece goes inside here, and it works along with the seal to seal the back of the idler wheel up. So this piece slips onto here, and then the shaft goes through this way, and this has got a keyway on it. That's that. That would have been a little bit longer, and that would have slipped down in where the key also goes, but that's still plenty. And it goes into that groove and stops the washer from turning, and then they fold the washer up onto the side of the nut, stop the nut undoing. Not that it would ever undo anyway. Alright.
Oh, this is an original one.
Yeah, this is an original shaft. Everything's original here except for this piece here. Original shaft, even the nut and washer are original. So I've got to clean this up. It's got a few high spots on it. I'll just take them off with the emery tape.
I know where your mind is going, don't even think about it.
So what we're going to do now, we're just going to test fit them. Just going to test fit them on the hull, see how they all look, line them up, and then we can take them back off and paint them. Right, so we're just using threaded rod. What we've got at the moment is just temporary, just to trial fit everything. We're going to make proper bolts later on for these.
This was the prototype with proper bolts and everything. It turned out great.
The reason for this groove here is actually like sort of a dust trap. Stop dust getting into the seal. So this seal will go on here. There we go. They will fall off. So I might just put one of these on. It's just temporary to stop anyone pulling that off. That's how they actually were though. That's an original washer to stop the wheel coming off. So that's how the wheel is held in. You can see it's an original bolt. It's actually twisted.
The attention to detail is really astonishing, and we hope you enjoyed this small glimpse into the process.
Don't forget to let us know if Alket and MEAG sharing parts was a common occurrence. It certainly struck us as strange. Liking, subscribing and sharing is a really easy way for you to support the channel and the work that we do here. And don't forget to tune in next Wednesday for your weekly tank restoration fix. So until then, I'm Kurt from Armour, and I'll see you on the next one.